Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Now, we are keeping our focus on Tobago because in collaboration with the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, the Pan American Health Organization conducted a 6-day mass casualty management training course from July 31st to August 5th. And so joining us this morning to talk more about that course and the certification is the Secretary of Health, Wellness and Social Protection, Dr. Faith B.Yisrael. Dr. B.Yisrael, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Now.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Of course. How is beautiful Tobago, Doctor? Beautiful as ever?
It is, as always, nice and sunny today.
Of course. All right. Well, let's jump right in. Tell us about the mass casualty certification. I mean, what was the purpose of it? Why did we think that we had to have our first responders be certified in this particular program?
Well, coming out of COVID, we can now think about everything else that could kill us, right? We can now think about other things. We had a simulation at the airport earlier this year, and coming out of that, we recognized that we were in a good place, but we needed to be in a better place. There were areas that needed to tighten up. So we agreed that this was a good time to invite the Pan American Health Organization to come in and work with a varied number of stakeholders. Yes, all of the first responders. So also the police, the fire service, our regional health authority, our emergency management agency, representatives from all of these entities, everyone who you would consider as a first responder. We decided to bring them together and to give them, for many of them, refreshers. For some of them, this was actually the first time they'd done mass casualty management. And of course, this is necessary because it's kind of like you have to think about what happens with buildings when we have to do fire drills. We don't really want to do the fire drills, but we have to do them because that is what allows our bodies, allows our muscles and our brains to think through in a time when we are not stressed, to think through what we should do in the case of an emergency. Because in the middle of the emergency, we get flustered, we don't think clearly. But what we are doing is trying to train our bodies on what to do so that in the middle of it, our unconscious learning would just kick in and do what needs to be done. And that's why we thought to use this kind of downtime when we don't have a mass casualty, we don't have any other major thing happening, to instill in our first responders the basic information that is necessary to, in essence, save our lives if anything happens.
So it's also a muscle memory sort of thing. You're training yourself to respond, even if you don't think about it. You're training yourself as well.
I'm not hearing.
Dr. B.Yisrael, you hearing me? Hello, Dr. B.Yisrael? I'm going to try you one more time. Dr. B.Yisrael,
I'm not hearing you at all now.
All right. We seem to be getting some technical difficulties, so we will check back in with Dr. Faith B.Yisrael. What we're hearing thus far is that first responders across the entire gambit, we're talking from the ambulance services, police services, prison services, all of them would have come together to complete this mass casualty certification. What we're also learning as well, it's almost something that's built, they want it to be built into their subconscious. So when something serious happens, these first responders will know exactly what to do. I'm hoping to get back in contact with Dr. Faith B.Yisrael because I also wanted to know in terms of how many people would have taken that course, Ayinka, as well. How many people would have benefited from it? I know it happened in Tobago, but are we also going to be seeing that course coming to our first responders in Trinidad so that we can be able to respond to those sort of things as well? So I'm hoping to get Dr. B.Yisrael back as well.
It's relieving to know that we are getting those sort of certificates to our first responders because we have a lot of natural disasters popping up everywhere. We have a lot of things that need us to have our first responders on the ground, ready for action. And when it becomes second nature, it makes me as a citizen much more relieved as to making sure they can take care of us.
Exactly. Anything happens to me, they are there, of course. And I believe that Dr. B.Yisrael is back with us. Dr. B.Yisrael, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you perfectly now.
Nice. Lovely to have you back. So we were talking about that muscle memory, that ability for them to respond subconsciously, even if something happens. I like that you mentioned that they did it across the entire gambit. So we had people in terms of prison, we had police, that sort of thing. But how many in total were trained?
We had 76 people being trained, so that's a pretty large volume. We had an 88% pass rate because there was actually a written exam. So there was a written exam and there was also a simulation, a night simulation at the airport. So just in case, something happens with a plane or something, there was an actual simulation at night because that makes it even more difficult with lighting issues. And we had an 88% pass rate. So that is pretty good, I think, at this point. Coming out of that, we recognize that there are a couple key areas. So we will actually come back in and focus on every sector. So we'll come back in and do something with the police specifically, do something with the fire specifically, do something with the RHA specifically, and then in another year or so again, bring back everyone together to do the training again, just to make sure we have everything on point.
Yeah. The initial certification that they were given, though, does it cover a certain period? Is it 2 years, 3 years? Dr. B.Yisrael?
So, not hearing again.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Let me know when you're hearing me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Right. So I know that you're saying that you're going to bring back in different groups of people, but I'm also wondering, that initial certification, does it cover a certain period, 2 years, 3 years? All right.
Yes, it's a 3-year certification.
3-year certification. Interesting. And in terms of the courses or the information that they would have learned, can you share some of the things that they were taught during this certification course?
Sure. It included what is the alerting process. It included field operation. What are the first steps you need to take while in the field if something happens? It included triaging. What, which victim do you need to see first? Which victim do you need to prioritize? It includes incident command systems. What are the mechanisms that we can use using the walkie-talkie, for example? That kind of information. It included actually planning for a mass casualty incident. It included what happens at the hospital. It may happen at the airport, but then you have to take the victims to the hospital. How the hospital manages all of that. It includes the communication mechanism. All of those things were part of what was included. How do you manage stress, for example, during that period? It's a very stressful period. So how do you manage stress in the middle of the madness? So all of those topics were covered within the 6 or 7 days of training. And I think it was a very comprehensive training. And as I said, this included a cross-section of individuals, and then we would come back to the specifics for each sector.
Yeah. Now, can you give us an example of a mass casualty incident?
Sure. So mass casualty means anything that results in a large volume of people being affected. So if there is an accident where something happens to a plane, or there's a fire on the airport and there are a lot of people there. If we have like a football game at the field or something, and there is something that happened at the field, on the field where the patrons are negatively affected. So anything that requires anything that results in a lot of people having medical challenges or any kind of incident like that.
Yeah, interesting. And as we look forward to training the rest of the first responders, now I know you said this is the initial one. They're going to come back in their specific categories and do another set of training. But as we look forward to continuing that training sessions, Dr. B.Yisrael, can you hear me? Dr. B.Yisrael? All right, I think we lost Dr. Hello? Okay, I think we lost Dr. B.Yisrael there, unfortunately, and the conversation was just getting a bit juicier in terms of what other training sessions they're going to be having for our first responders in Tobago. But I love that she gave us the example of what that mass casualty is. Right. And as you mentioned, Ayinka, it's refreshing to know that there are people able to handle, not only able, but certified to handle us if we ever find ourselves in that situation.
I'm thinking I initially used the example of natural disasters with the flooding and those sort of things because that's where we know our first responders absolutely are on standby. But yes, when we have unfortunate events like mass shootings or major accidents in large public spaces, generally there's a lot of carnage, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of confusion. That, again, that reassurance of knowing there are people that can handle this.
Yes.
It's so much better. Like, honestly. I've never thought about it before, but I'm really glad that you joined us today to give that info.
Yeah, definitely. Bringing us a sense of peace this morning, and a sense of peace, I think, to the entire nation as well, because I'm sure many are resonating with what you just said. You don't think about it. You always think about it.
Never did. Never, genuinely never had to think about it before. You just think of the fact that they would give you instructions at best, or where to find the information on the websites, or who to call. But you never think of having people on the ground that are capable, ready, and willing, and that's really reassuring. We appreciate that so much.
Of course. Apart from the practical response as well, I love that she also mentioned the fact that they're telling you how to manage stress, because it can be very stressful. We know how it is to have a loved one in the hospital. You want the information, so you have relatives coming badgering you. Where can I find this? Where can I find that? So you're dealing with the public, you're dealing with concerned relatives, you're dealing with the patients themselves. So that can be a very, very stressful situation. So I'm glad that they're giving them the tools as well to handle that level of stress when it comes.
Special good morning going out to all of our first responders, as a matter of fact.
We understand.
Fire services, or all of our protective services. Last night, I kind of jokingly said thank you to the police officers that were accompanying us, because, of course, we have to block the streets and maintain the actual, subdue the chaos, I should say. Because, yesterday in particular was Rum Day internationally, and that would mean people have a license almost to be a little bit more extra. And the police officers that were there were so lovely. In terms of speaking to these persons, sometimes it's even intimidating just having a regular interaction to say, "Hi, I'm supposed to drive down the street. Do I have the permission?" They were so warm, and considering the amount of stressful circumstances under which they function, not just the police, but across the board, I just want to say special good morning, thank you, and hopefully your day is less stressful. I mean, it's the lesser of two evils, because it's going to be stressful, but just less stressful. We really do appreciate you all.
Of course, we really do appreciate you all, and I'm hoping as well that the Ministry of Health here, that they also tag in as well, and maybe train, or maybe training is going on and we don't know about it.
At least not publicly.
Exactly. So I'm hoping that we can maybe able to check in with the Ministry of Health in Trinidad to find out how our first responders are also handling that certification training. And, is it that they're going to also be trained in their different groups as well? Police versus fire services versus prison officers as well, just to ensure that there is safety all around in the protective services as well.
And I love the fact that, as you mentioned, everybody going in their separate areas and then coming together, because that's really what we need in Trinidad and Tobago.
It makes sense. And it's things that we don't think about. Because we often, we know that they will have different functions for each entity. Fire services may take up a different mantle than, let's say, our army, but then they have to work together. They have to synergize. And again, I've never had to think of that before. So this morning I'm having a full eureka moment.
But that's one of the things we see with flooding, though, because remember sometimes the protective services, they will come out as well. We have the ODP officials as well standing by. Fire may need to come as well. I know TNTech also have those trucks now that can go through the water. So it really is a whole of, I wouldn't say government, but a whole of society approach that comes together when we see disasters like this happening.
It definitely is a community. But something I encourage that you also mentioned,
the light bulb moments.
But something that you mentioned, thanking our first responders, thanking all those for their service. Many times we just sort of, gloss over it, and we don't think about the fact that numerous individuals who sit in these professions, they go out every single day not knowing what's going to happen. I mean, we all do, but putting your life on the line, I mean, that's a dedication to make to your country and to your community as well. And also love to the families, because they know what they sign up for.
Big fact. I think even outside of the physical danger, we also have to think about the mental toll it takes on them. I have to use the LG as the example again, because I was completely unaware of the fact that because there was the recount, and generally because there was the voting process, until everything got the green light, our army was actually on standby. They had to stay on base. And that was incredulous to me. I'm like, so you just spent 24 hours on it for
just in case.
Just in case. And I remember saying to the person I was talking to, I was like, it's not like they're going to riot. Nobody's upset or anything. And they said to me, they don't riot until they riot. So we are prepared. And again, these are things that we civilians and regular citizens take for granted. We don't think of all the things that are happening in the background that not only, as I said, could cause bodily harm, but mentally requires a level of stability and fortitude that hats off to you all.
Exactly. And I also think one of the reasons why I would have remembered the importance of having them standing at the ready is the coup. Remember, the coup changed a lot of different things. A lot of new services and processes were put in place as a result of it. We didn't expect the coup, but the coup happened, or the attempted coup happened, rather. And so, as he said, you're right, we don't have a riot until we have one. So they have to be ready.
Prepared.
Exactly. Than, you know, something happens and we're unprepared for it. So kudos go out to you. We appreciate you. But quickly, Anchor, how was last night?
Well, I'm here.
But how was it?
No, but really and truly, it's Sound Clash is something that is very niche. And so I think that coupled with the fact that Rum Day was in the middle of the week, the turnout was persons who really wanted to be there. So the energy was amazing, and it's not necessarily my area of expertise, but I had a good time as a host and definitely not participating because that clash was serious. Man, business started to come out.
Well, I'm tossing to EJ now. EJ, did you clash? Did you go on the ones and twos and do a thing?
Well, it didn't clash.
Okay.
It's good to see that they were trying to bring back that song clash.
Yes.
Because I don't want to say that it's dying, but it's not something people hear about all the time. So to see the turnout, it was really amazing last night.
Yeah.
I think Sound Clash is akin to how Steel Pan originally started.
Yes.
It was how the badmen used to war in terms of taking it to the pan instead of actually getting violence. And I think to a certain extent, that's how a lot of DJs and soundmen would take out their grievances against each other. You take it to combat in plates. The difference now, though, is that we do have a lot of violent music. We do have a lot of negative perpetuated in music. And so last night they attempted to really use it as a showcase for the talent and the finesse of Next 99. And BJ being on Sweet, he had to just relax about it. And so that we saw next DJs going head to head, sound for sound, everybody giving each other a chat. I told you the group chat was lit all week long. And I learned things about my co-workers I did not need to know.
So wait, so who was you on a team Turnt or Team Tipsy?
Team Turnt and Team Tipsy were the options. Team Turnt took it. They definitely did. There was a lot of crowd involvement though. So generally it was a fun night and a great way to see the teams come together. I was really, really proud to be part of Next 99.1 FM.
Boom, boom, boom. And we hope that you are proud to be with us on the Now Morning Show because we go all the way up until 8 a.m. But for now, we're going to take a break and be right back. Stay with us.